Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Julianna Fiarra Condrada. I'm a third-year journalism student from the University of Santo Tomas. This interview is part of our coursework for newsroom practices and management, and the resulting piece will be published on the TRILBY, our class platform under the guidance of Mr. Nathaniel Malikan. My story focuses on the presence and invisibility of Buddhism in Manila, particularly how Buddhist communities navigate life, practice, and tradition in a predominantly Catholic and urban environment. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Chandima Gangodawila, Assistant Professor in the Department of Philosophy at Ateneo de Manila University. Dr. Chandima specializes in Buddhist philosophy, and his research critically engages with both classical and contemporary Buddhist thought, especially in the areas of ethics, gender justice, monastic accountability, and environmental sustainability. His recent article, Sika Paka, Sika Paka Kakana, or The Abandoning of Training Rules, was published in the Journal of Buddhist Ethics, and also served as associate editor for the Journal of International Buddhist Studies. Thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Chandima.
Thank you, Juliana, for this invitation and introduction, and I'm happy to do this for your I don't know, it's a Facebook journal or it's a journal called Trilby. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to engage in the conversation.
To begin, I'd like to ask about the place of Buddhism in the Philippine religious landscape. In a country where Buddhism is a religious minority, how might Buddhist communities negotiate the balance between integration and distinct identity preservation?
All right, it's an interesting question. Buddhist communities in the Philippines, as far as I understand, engage in a subtle balancing act, one foot planted in shared Filipino values like compassion and familial and communal care in the Philippines, and the other rooted in their distinct spiritual heritage, as you uh, reminded me about Catholic background. So they integrate naturally through their culture, I would say, not even to culture, public service, interfaith engagement, and cultural respect. But preserving identity takes intentionality. Practicing meditation in native languages, as you know, in some of the provinces in the Philippines, they have their own ways of being aware in their own meditation practices, although they are not Buddhist on the surface value, but they do. And observing lunar rituals and passing down ethical teachings within families and study circles. So it's about being visible without being assimilated, I would say.
Okay, now for the next questions. I'd like to ask, what are the challenges of practicing a tradition that is often seen through the lens of ethnicity or heritage rather than as a living spiritual path?
An interesting question as well. So, for a Filipino who has exposed to Buddhism, might view Buddhism in a statistical process, in a statistical perspective, a little differently than the predominant religious group. So, I would say when Buddhism is boxed in as a Chinese, a Thai, or heritage religion, it quietly alienates those who are spiritually curious but ethnically outside. So this ethnic framing can obscure the universality of the Buddhist path. So I would say I have a suggestion to counter this. Communities are translating the Dhamma into Filipino and English. I've been involved with couple centers. They do that, focusing on ethical clarity, emotional resilience, and accessible meditation. So the goal isn't to erase cultural identity, but to open the door wider, going beyond ethnic, uh, aspects. So I would say one big issue is uh, how to bring this to a diversity of ethnic groups. Even it is Buddhist, there are Chinese Buddhists, there are mainstream Buddhists, there are groups who are conducting meditation by being exposed to Western meditators. So it's, I think, the existing groups, they are doing a wonderful work in making the core values of Buddhism being accessible to normal people, but still an outgoing effort. So it will take time, but it's happening.
Now, for the next question, how do you think the perception of Buddhism as a minority religion influences the way it is practiced and understood in the country?
Okay, so being a minority means Buddhism often gets miscast, sometimes mystified as Zen-like serenity, other times dismissed as passive. I look at it in these two ways. When Buddhism goes to an alienated society, maybe a foreign land, it would deem, them. It would deem to many people that it's something that we have to understand through very famous narratives of Buddhism, like Zen meditation, Japanese, Chinese Buddhism. So this is one area, Zen-like serenity, the meditation happiness. On the other hand, a kind of a passive group who have no active relevance or maybe connection to the ongoing problems in a country. Buddhists have been regarded as being passive in many countries because the main issue is that uh, some people they look at Buddhists as being very passive. I mean, they are not sensitive to what's happening, but it's not. There are groups. So, but this outsider status, Zen-like serenity or passive mentality in the country here, uh, sparks creativity in a way. So, Filipino Buddhists that I know are carving new paths such as leading meditations in cafes, organizing online Dhamma talks and on-site Dhamma talks, wherein which I have also participated in a way, and using social media to humanize the practice. So it's kind of a gentle revolution, gentle renaissance in a way, staying true to the Buddha teachings while adapting the methods to local rhythms.
Thank you so much. Now let's shift our focus to the urban setting of Manila, where Buddhists live and practice. I'd like to ask about how Buddhist philosophy interacts with the realities of life in a dense, fast-paced city. Now, considering the pace of urban life here, how do you see the philosophical core of Buddhism, particularly mindfulness and detachment, being either challenged or affirmed by the environment?
In fact, Manila makes mindfulness necessary. The traffic, the honking horns, the crowds, the pressure here. It's a perfect storm for forgetting ourselves. But Buddhist mindfulness isn't about retreating to caves, going to the forest even. It's about facing the chaos with clarity. On the other hand, detachment in this sense isn't apathy. It's learning to be present without being consumed. So, say for instance, each traffic jam becomes a teacher for us. I mean, for the locals and for someone like me, each moment of stillness, a quiet act of inner rebellion. So that means Buddhism is really relevant to the culture here in Manila as well. I mean, mindfulness, patience. We call them sati, kanti. I mean, they can be really relevant to the communities here while I think the country is developing, growing slowly and gradually. It's very relevant, especially mindfulness.
Now, can cities like Manila become fertile ground for developing a distinctively Filipino or urbanized form of Buddhist thought and practice?
Absolutely. Just as Buddhism once adapted to rice fields in Thailand or tea ceremonies in Japan, it can flourish amidst jeepneys and high rises. Filipino humor, hospitality, and improvisation mirror Buddhist values of resilience and fluidity. Although we don't look at it, we don't hear it from them, but this is what I can see as a reflection. From yoga studios to academic halls, like in here at Ateneo, there is a growing hunger for stillness, ethics, introspection, awareness, mindfulness, patience, seat for a uniquely urban Dhamma.
Now, I'd like to explore the public dimension of Buddhism, especially how visibility or lack thereof affects how tradition is perceived and practiced in society. In your view, what is at stake when sacred Buddhist days like the Vesak Day are not publicly acknowledged, like in this country, the Philippines? Does public visibility dilute sacredness, or can it enhance collective understanding and interreligious empathy?
Well, I mean, Vesak celebration was celebrated worldwide a few days ago. And I feel that it's still very new to the Philippine community. I would say Vesak was kind of celebrated by Buddhist centers here. I also was a part of one of the centers. So I think it's not just about missing a date on the calendar. It's about missing a community's voice. When Vesak is overlooked, it quietly suggests that some faiths are more valid than others. But with proper recognition, Vesak can become a bridge, offering Filipinos of all faiths a glimpse into ethics of peace, reflection, and loving kindness. Visibility, if handled with respect, actually can uplift sacredness, not dilute it. So I believe that uh, Vesak in many countries, even if you take Singapore, Malaysia, Malaysia is not a Buddhist country, but it's a national holiday. Uh, I mean, if the Buddhists here in the Philippines one day, although they are a minority, can really uh, celebrate Vesak in their peaceful, calm way, not disrupting, not disturbing the other religious groups here. It can be a wonderful way to get together. I mean, to celebrate this collective mentality. So I don't think it is a problem yet, but if in the future there will be a massive group for Buddhists, maybe when the Buddhist groups are growing, perhaps they might think that this could be a holiday for them in a way.
Now, for the next question, how should Buddhist communities navigate the tension between maintaining the sacredness of the rituals and increasing public visibility in such a pluralist society?
Well, the Philippine religious culture is such a wonderful, patient, empathetic, compassionate culture. We have to respect that. So my answer to this is it's a tightrope, but a walkable one. The key to anchoring public expressions in spiritual meaning, not spectacle. A Vesak lantern that people celebrated sometime just a couple of days ago, for instance, should symbolize enlightenment, not just decoration. Education is very essential. Now, when we talk about Buddhism, I think, Juliana, you might have heard that Buddhism is a lot about educating ourselves and the collective reality, not just that we go to a ritualistic place and do something. So, education, educating about life, personal life, social life, collective life is very essential. So partnering with schools and civic groups can make rituals, those realistic rituals, practical, holistic rituals, teachable moments rather than cultural curiosity. So I would say that perhaps if warranted, if needed, uh, Buddhist groups can merge with those places as necessary to make this sacredness of Buddhism more accessible to many.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to move on now to education, specifically how early Buddhist teachings are being introduced and interpreted in academic spaces, including your own work at Ateneo. Now, I'd like to ask what risks and possibilities come with transmitting early Buddhist teachings into modern secular education institutions such as Ateneo?
Well, Ateneo is a Catholic university, but hiring me into the university in a way that they want me to teach Buddhist studies as an academic thing. It's not about indoctrination, so we don't want to indoctrinate anybody. So Ateneo would like to introduce Buddhist studies for those students in an academic way, so they have a good understanding about contemporary ancient religious studies, especially Indian philosophy, where Buddhism is going to be a part of. So I think it kind of opens up the horizons of philosophical matrices of students, because normally many universities they teach Western philosophy. So I think teaching Eastern philosophy, Indian philosophy, Buddhism in an academic way can uh, can help students open up their own horizons in understanding philosophy in a much broader, larger way. I think it's a very good thing Ateneo does. So in that understanding, they bring the very important aspects of philosophy into the system. And in Ateneo, philosophy is a core course. Every student has to take the core course. So I think most of the students, they say that philosophy of religion, or maybe philosophy courses that they took as a part of core course, changed their life, I mean, into become a better person. So I think it's a very great effort Ateneo does.
I'd like to ask, are students generally open to engaging with Buddhist ideas? Or are there any misconceptions you've heard?
They do. They're very much into asking questions about life, especially I would say uh, some of the fun, especially like things like concepts like karma, and then karmic results, and I would say Noble Eightfold Path, the core practice in Buddhism. They are very much into that. And how does Buddhism look at life, how to become a better person, and the conversation is all about Buddhism is neither a religion nor a philosophy in that level, in a higher level. Buddhism is a lifestyle, is a way of life. So people are very much interested about that intersection. I mean, I always tell my students that you don't need to become a Buddhist. You become a better Christian, better Catholic by learning Buddhist teachings, in being a better Catholic, in being a better Christian. That will help. I mean, if they want to ask questions about that, that will help them be the best in their own version.
Now, how do you see the challenge, if there is, of adapting Buddhist ethical teachings to a secular modern context while maintaining the depth and original intent of the tradition?
Uh, well, you mean in the Philippines?
Yes, in the Philippines.
Yeah, could you repeat the question again?
How do you see the challenge of adapting Buddhist ethical teachings to a secular modern context while maintaining the depth and original intent of the tradition?
All right. There are challenges, not the challenges don't come in the Buddhist teachings themselves. The challenges come in introducing the proper Buddhist teachings. I think in the Philippines, even many people don't understand Buddhism as something that can be really helpful for their personal and religious life, in a way that they are not being very pushed to understand that. So I think one thing is that the language problem. Second is that the proper teachings have not been introduced. And most of the Buddhist centers here in the Philippines are Chinese-based Buddhist centers. They are propagating Mahayana Buddhism. So we are talking about early Buddhism. When the Buddhism was not a school, we call it as early Buddhism. So I think efforts are necessary for whoever the right people to introduce early Buddhism for those people who like to learn Buddhism as an academic subject, or maybe as a practitioner subject. So I think that is one kind of challenge, and language, and and the other thing is that Buddhism should not be an intimidating subject to the Philippines. I mean, we do understand we have to respect the existing religious traditions over here. But as I said earlier, learning about some of the very important aspects of Buddhism can help anyone in this country become a better version of his or her or their own religion. So, like mindfulness, patience, awareness, and there are many things. So I think proper leadership is necessary. Understanding the proper areas of Buddhism to be learned is also necessary. And perhaps they can invite. Um, Maybe they can teach Buddhist studies, Buddhist philosophy in a university.
Now, I'd like to ask about the roles of institutions and authority figures in shaping how Buddhism is practiced, especially in the context of diaspora communities. Given your work on monastic misconduct in Sri Lanka, what parallels, if any, do you see in the informal leadership structures within diaspora Buddhist communities in the Philippines?
Well, I have to first clarify that when you said that crimes among the monastics in Sri Lanka, there are very good monks and nuns, so we have to respect them. So, but in every community there are certain things that can happen anywhere in the world. So, while respecting those Sangha members, monastics, I would like to answer this. So, in both contexts, say for instance, Sri Lanka or diasporic Buddhist communities in the Philippines who might have come from these countries, I would understand that authority sometimes comes without accountability. The authority can be an issue. In Sri Lanka, charisma on seniority can override ethical scrutiny. Because now, say for instance, when there are so many hierarchical, meritocratic things that are being applied to the system, then this can sometime overlook the existing problems. So I always say that yes, we may have a meritocratic system that may have hierarchy, but the problem is, are those hierarchical meritocratic officials, yeah, be the monastics or whoever, government or related people, are they really overseeing some kind of important aspects within the Sangha, within the Buddhist communities, within the country? So that's why I'm saying this hierarchical meritocracy might override ethical scrutiny. Actually, I'm on an article these days, almost going to submit about some of the what do you call the monastic crimes that had happened in Sri Lanka, and then what we can do to help out the country become a better place. So similarly, in diaspora communities where formal lineage is loose, trusted leaders can wield unchecked influence. That means this opens the door to abuse or factionalism. Say, for instance, leadership needs both compass and structural checks. Now, that means, say, for instance, if you see the monastic groups in Canada, America, Sri Lankan groups, maybe in Europe, I mean, can we monitor all these people? I don't think. So how to help them? To function smoothly without problems. So I think at that point, the core institutions, leading institutions in Sri Lanka with regard to monastics, they have to have a good communication with those diasporic communities so that they can minimize those challenges. They can get rid of those challenges way before they appear.
Now, I'd like to ask, what role do lay practitioners play in maintaining the integrity of Buddhist teachings and practices, especially in environments where monastic leadership may be less accessible?
Hmm. Interesting. Lay people become the living Dhamma because lay people are the ones who are supporting monks and nuns. They support monks and nuns with food, shelter, medication, and everything. But the connection between monastics and lay people are not always smooth sometimes because the problem is sometimes the lay people might think, why are we supporting the monastics? And monastic might think, okay, we are being always supported by them, so we do whatever we want. So I think there should be a smooth balance that has to happen on both parties by understanding who are we and why are we engaging this and that way. So my suggestion here is that monastics need to understand lay people are the goal here because monastics are practicing in their own way, but you are delivering a message to the lay people. So lay people are the living Dhamma at the end. And in many diasporic contexts, they are the ones organizing, teaching, mentoring, and not even that, sponsoring, financing all these programs in temples, even the Vesak ceremony. So early Buddhism was not monastic only, it was relational. So lay people and monks, they have to go together. Not that I want to attain my own enlightenment, so I don't care about other people. So it has to be relational, it has to go. Today, lay practitioners are vital stewards, bridging generations and geographies to keep the Dhamma vibrant and real. So I think uh, lay people are supporting, they've been supporting a lot, although there may be some issues, but uh, the Buddhist monks and nuns have to be seriously aware that how to, walk on their monastic path without creating any problem with the lay communities.
Now, to close, as for the last question, I'd love to hear more about your personal perspective, especially what it's been like to live and teach Buddhism here in the Philippines, and how has your own understanding of Buddhism evolved while living and teaching in the Philippines? What have you learned about the tradition by seeing it exist here?
The first person to ask this question from me. Okay, so I feel my first vibe is a very good vibe, and I've been teaching in many places in the world, even Canada, Sri Lanka, long time ago. Uh, my understanding is that Filipino students that I'm teaching, they are very wonderful, very respectful, very caring students. And not even that, they want to learn, they want to know what is up there to learn. And personally speaking, I would say this spending time in the Philippines has taught me that Buddhism is less about forms and more about presence. Here, I've seen the Dhamma alive in almost everywhere, even public transportation and other places, and showing the patience. In students quietly helping classmates, in communities rebuilding after storms. I learned that the truth of pain, suffering, and the path to its end are universally felt, even if spoken in different tongues. The Philippines has reminded me that Buddhism travels not by conversion, but by connection. So I think overall, the Philippines has their own good side and some other things that they have to work on. But I feel like, my thoughts, my feelings about Filipino culture and the connections and the overall scenario that I've been going through in the university outside, such a very enriching one so far. So I feel like this community can thrive really well.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Chandima, for your time and incredibly thoughtful responses. This conversation has been truly enriching, and I'm deeply grateful to include your insights for my article. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juliana, for the time, and it was a uh, honor for me to be talking to this called TRILBY journal. I hope that this will be very resourceful and supportive for all the students and community in your campus, UST. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
I